Robert Leslie Lewis was born on December 1st, 1946, to Carrie Lewis and Belby Scott in Huntsville, Alabama. At a very young age, he excelled in the classroom and was promoted from first to third grade. For a colored boy in the early 1950s, Robert could write and do math better than most. So Robert continued to excel both in junior high and high school, and was noted for reciting very long speeches and participating in operettas. All of this excellence unfortunately came to a sudden halt when he was in the 11th grade, as Robert fell in love and decided to quit school. After dropping out of school, Robert worked at several jobs, including helping a contractor to build a large hotel in the local area. After the hotel job was finished, he worked at many other menial jobs in the hotel, and he was given the assignment of cooking. He's excelled there as well. And then, unfortunately, for some, especially for him, he received a letter stating that Uncle Sam wanted him. He was drafted. But rather than answering Uncle Sam's call to the Army, he chose to volunteer. Yes, he chose to volunteer for the Marines. He entered the Marines, graduated from basic training in Parris Island, and was then stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where he began working as a cook. After about 4 months, he received orders for South Vietnam, and he was shipped there in 1969, and there he stayed for 11 months. As he had done in other endeavors, he excelled and received many meritorious combat promotions. In 1970, he received an honorable discharge from the United States Marines. He then moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee, joined the Marine Corps Reserve, and entered McKenzie College. After successfully completing the coursework at McKenzie, he was not allowed to get his degree because he'd quit high school in the 11th grade. He didn't have a high school diploma. So Robert had to go back to school, night school, and get his GED, which he did. He received his GED 1 week and his associate degree in business administration the very next. In 1973, Robert Lewis went to work for the Wheel Foundry, and with his first wife, Barbara, began to build a family. And although that marriage would end in divorce, together they were the parents of 4 wonderful and amazing children: Lynn, Reginald, Jeffrey, and Garion. Robert was a doting father, and because of his family, he honored his role and his responsibility. Wheeling was a place where the work was hard. The conditions were not the best, and the pay was just enough to get by. But the more you worked, the more you could make. And so Robert figured that out, and he worked, and he worked, and he worked. He worked there until it closed in 2003. Many things happened during that 30 years while he was there. One particular moment stands out in 1975. His good friend, longtime friend, Jimmy Jenkins, reluctantly invited him to a prayer meeting that was being held on site. The meeting was held in the back of the plant. Mostly white men were there smiling, but Robert still went along and participated, feeling somewhat irritated, though. He felt they didn't like him. But the preacher, one of the white preachers in particular, took a New Testament Bible and began sharing John 3:16. It was that night that a white preacher from Sand Mountain led Robert Lewis to Christ. He was given a tract that he read over and over and over again, and thus began his never-ending thirst for the Word. His favorite verse to this very day is Hebrews 11, verse 6, which states, "But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." In 1979, Robert would remarry a young woman he met while attending church services at the Mount Canaan Baptist Church on Ocoee Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee. He was drawn to the preaching of the late Reverend Melvin Jordan and the singing of the choir. He felt a certain spirit come over him there. Before long, he was a member of the choir. Also in the choir was the young lady that he'd adored from afar. Her name was Dolores. Unfortunately, though, Dolores was in a terrible accident, and during her stay, her name somehow appeared on the sick and shut-in list of the church. Robert took advantage of that, and he went to the hospital to visit, taking flowers to her every day. And that began a love story that continues to this very day. Dolores Smith, who he describes as the real deal, someone who loves the Lord and is a very good mother to their children. they've become one heck of a team. Well, beyond the already listed activities, Robert has lived a spectacular life and experienced many successes. In addition to his service with the Marines, he also has an honorable discharge from the U.S. Air Force and another honorable discharge from the U.S. Marine Corps with the rank of Master Sergeant E8, an outstanding service and dedication award from the Public Education Foundation, and the Military Quilt of Valor. Not one to sit around and allow the grass to grow under his feet, Master Sergeant Lewis continued to work in different capacities, which included a stint as the Chief Security Officer at the Trade and Convention Center, as well as the parent coordinator at Franklin Middle School. He continues to stay busy, travels extensively. He's been across both the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, and he says he's visited at least 40 to 50 states. And we have to believe that he has. At his core, Robert reflects on the tough upbringing that he and his sisters endured in the South. And he's committed himself to ensuring that the next generation is better and more successful than the previous. And as a result, much of his time these days is spent supporting and encouraging friends and family, going to church, supporting the activities of the church. He knows the importance of education and the good things that come from having a good work ethic. He's seen the evidence of commitment to an ethic that pays dividends well into the future. He is a God-fearing man who understands the power of prayer, and his desire is to see that others come to a similar understanding. Robert joined Grace Baptist Tabernacle in 1987, where he has served God through grace for 37 years and continues to serve today as trustee, Sunday school teacher, choir member, cook, leader of the senior ministry, and mentor to all who seek his wise counsel. Robert Leslie Lewis is definitely worthy of being recognized as a significant contributor to Black history. Simplify.